60 meters underwater.
Yeah.
That is almost 200 feet down.
It's an unfathomable depth for most people.
Right. And at that depth, a single breath of air from your scuba tank is just consumed exponentially faster than it is at the surface.
Absolutely.
You are trapped inside an underwater cave, surrounded by jagged rock, and above you, a violent storm is tossing your only lifeline to the surface.
It's terrifying.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at the terrifying anatomy of a disaster that really shattered the serene postcard image of the Maldives.
Yeah, turning what should have been a luxury tourist excursion into the nation's worst single diving accident.
It really is a profound tragedy.
It is. And, when you examine the cascade of events, you realize it is the absolute definition of a worst-case scenario.
Yeah, for sure.
It's unfolding in an environment where human beings simply do not belong. We are parsing through a stack of reports detailing the sequence of events in Vaavu Atoll.
Which is about, 100 kilometers south of the capital city?
Yeah, exactly, south of Mao. And we're tracking the deaths of 5 Italian divers and closely examining the deeply perilous underwater cave search operation that followed.
An operation that tragically claimed the life of a Maldivian rescue diver who was just, trying to bring them home.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the extreme risks of the rescue operation that followed, we really have to look at the specific, anomalous nature of the dive these 5 victims were undertaking.
We do.
It all started on a Thursday morning. A safari vessel called the Duke of York was operating in the atoll.
Which sounds like a standard high-end tourist excursion, right?
Exactly. 25 Italian nationals on board.
On the surface, yes, it looks like a luxury trip. But here's the critical divergence that sets this entire event in motion.
Right, because they didn't all go diving.
Exactly. 20 of those Italian nationals remained on the yacht. They never went down.
Wow.
The remaining 5 entered the water with a very specific goal, which was to explore a deep cave system.
And those 5 failed to resurface.
Yeah.
And we should clarify, these weren't just like casual vacationers who wandered off the beach and got in over their heads.
No, not at all.
When you look at the composition of this missing group, you realize you are dealing with individuals who possess a deeply sophisticated professional understanding of the ocean.
Right. You look at the roster and it reads like a university faculty trip.
Yeah. Tell us who was in the water.
Well, the team included Monica Monefalcone, who is a professor of marine biology from the University of Genoa.
Wow, an actual professor.
Yes, and she was diving alongside her daughter, Georgia Somakal.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and they were also accompanied by Muriel Odnino, a research fellow, and Federico Gualtieri, who is a marine biology graduate.
So you have 4 highly educated individuals directly connected to a university marine biology program. I mean, they study this environment for a living.
They do, and their 5th member was Gianluca Benedetti.
And he was the instructor, right?
Exactly. They're boat operations manager and a professional diving instructor. So you have a seasoned instructor leading a team of marine science academics.
Which brings me to a massive contradiction in the source material. I have to push back on the logic of this dive, because anyone familiar with diving is probably screaming at their speakles right now.
Oh, absolutely.
We have a direct quote here from the Maldivian government spokesman, Mohamed Sharif. He explicitly states that the legal, safe limit for recreational scuba divers in the Maldives is 30 meters.
30 meters.
Yet the reports confirm this group was exploring caves at depths of 50 to 60 meters.
Yeah.
Why would a team of marine ecologists and a professional instructor push roughly 100 feet past the hard safety limit?
What's fascinating here is the sources we have don't provide us with the why.
Really? Nothing?
Nothing. They leave that mystery completely intact. Was there a rare biological specimen they were trying to observe?
Or maybe just the thrill of it?
Right. Was it the sheer thrill of a deep, unexplored cave system? We don't have that answer. But the sources intensely focus on the where. And the where explains the sheer lethality of the situation. At 60 meters down, the environment just stops being a recreational space.
It becomes something else entirely.
It becomes a highly technical, unforgiving trap defined entirely by physics.
Let's actually clarify the physics of that for a second, because we throw around numbers like 60 meters and it just sounds like, a long distance.
But it's about water pressure.
Exactly. Every 10 meters you descend, you add another atmosphere of pressure. So at 60 meters, you are experiencing 7 times the pressure you feel at the surface.
Which is massive.
How does that physically affect a diver?
Well, it alters everything about your life support. Because the water pressure is so immense, the air you breathe from your tank is compressed.
Okay, so what does that mean in practical terms?
It means that with every single breath you take, your lungs require 7 times as many air molecules to fill up as they would on the deck of the boat.
Wait, 7 times the air.
Yes. A tank of air that might happily last you an hour near the surface could be entirely sucked dry in less than 10 minutes at 60 meters.
Wow.
Your safety margin practically vanishes.
And it's not just the air consumption, right? Breathing air under that much pressure forces high concentrations of nitrogen into your bloodstream and tissues.
Which introduces the risk of nitrogen narcosis.
Right.
When nitrogen is breathed under high pressure, it has a severe intoxicating effect on the brain.
Divers often compare it to being suddenly heavily drunk, don't they?
Exactly like that. Your reaction times slow down, your peripheral vision narrows, and your decision-making becomes severely impaired.
That is terrifying. You are essentially intoxicated, burning through your air supply in minutes, and you are inside a cave.
And the cave is the ultimate multiplier of the danger.
How so?
In open water, if you experience equipment failure or a sudden current shift or, a panic response, your ultimate failsafe is to swim up.
Just head for the surface.
Right. But inside an underwater cave system, there is a literal physical ceiling of rock above your head.
You cannot swim up.
You cannot. You have to navigate laterally back through the dark maze you just entered before you can even begin your ascent.
You are boxed in by rock, by time, and by the chemistry of your own blood.
Precisely. And this extreme depth, combined with that confined environment, directly sets the stage for the absolute nightmare scenario that the rescue teams were forced to face over the subsequent days.
So let's look at the rescue operation, because trying to conduct a search and rescue at this depth in a cave is like trying to navigate a dark, flooded maze while a storm rages on the roof above you.
That is a perfect analogy.
But let's actually expand on that analogy. How does a storm on the surface actually impact divers who are 200 feet underwater?
Well, it comes down to the lifeline connecting the two. The Maldivian military had declared the weather unfavorable and rough.
The police actually issued a yellow warning, right?
Yes, a yellow warning for passenger boats and fishermen in the Vaavu Atoll area. This means the ocean surface is violently pitching with massive swells.
And those support boats on the surface are dropping anchor lines or down lines for the divers to use.
Exactly. When you are deep diving, especially in a current, you rely on a physical downline to descend and ascend safely.
Makes sense.
But if the surface boat is heaving up and down on massive waves, that violent motion travels straight down the rope.
Oh, wow.
Imagine trying to hold onto a rope that is being violently yanked up and down by a truck.
Which is incredibly dangerous because coming up from 60 meters
Yeah.
requires you to stop, right? You
Yeah.
can't just rocket to the surface.
You absolutely cannot. Because your tissues are saturated with pressurized nitrogen, if you ascend too quickly, that nitrogen expands and forms bubbles in your blood and joints.
Which is decompression sickness.
Commonly known as the bends, yeah. And it can be fatal. To safely off-gas that nitrogen, deep divers must hang onto that rope at specific depths for mandatory decompression stops.
Sometimes for extended periods, right?
Yes. So if the boat is yanking the rope, maintaining that exact depth becomes a brutal physical fight. The surface weather is actively trying to kill the rescuers below.
It's chaos on the surface.
Yeah.
And it's a high-pressure tomb below, which explains the grim reality of the initial search.
Yeah.
The group went missing on Thursday. The Maldives National Defense Force, the MNDF, conducted an initial dive on Friday.
They braved those conditions, went down 60 meters, entered the cave system, and found absolutely nothing.
0 results.
You can imagine the psychological toll on the rescue team. They know exactly where the victims likely are.
They just can't get to them.
Right. The environment is so relentlessly hostile that they simply cannot reach them. Because of the inherently dangerous nature of the operation, the Coast Guard realized standard dive protocols were useless here.
They had to pivot completely.
They had to halt, regroup, and deploy additional specialized military divers and heavy rescue equipment to the area just to attempt a second search.
And the reports are stark about what they were dealing with. So far, out of the 5 missing Italians, only 1 body has been recovered.
Just one.
They found the diving instructor, Gianluca Benedetti, at a depth of around 60 meters.
Yeah.
The other 4, the professor, her daughter, the fellow, and the graduate student, are still believed to be trapped deep inside that cavernous rock formation.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have military rescue logistics being applied to a civilian recreational space.
Right.
Deep-water cave diving requires immense physical and technical precision on a perfectly calm, sunny day with zero stress.
And this was not a calm day.
No. When you add the urgency of a recovery mission, the heavy emotional weight of searching for bodies, and you force these divers to do it under a yellow weather warning,
We're just asking for trouble.
you are pushing human endurance to its razor-edge limit. Every single breath a rescue diver takes down there is a calculated risk against the elements.
And those risks were not just theoretical, they were deadly. On Saturday, the ocean exacted the ultimate price from the rescue team.
The Saturday operation was really the devastating turning point of this entire timeline.
Yeah.
The stakes had reached a level where the Maldivian president, Mohamed, actually traveled to Vaavu Atoll to personally observe the search operation from the surface.
That detail alone tells you the immense gravity of the situation. I mean, the head of state is on site.
Exactly.
The pressure on these military divers to perform, to pull off a miracle and find these missing Italian nationals must have been suffocating before they even hit the water.
Under the direct observation of the president, the intensive search begins. 8 rescue divers from the Maldives National Defense Force gear up.
The elite of the elite.
These are the elite, equipped with the specialized gear brought in after Friday's failure. And among this team of 8 is Staff Sergeant Mohamed Mahdhee.
So they descend into the rough, churning water. They fight their way down the downlines, pushing back toward that crushing 60-meter mark, braving the dark cave system once again.
They execute the search protocol in the dark. Their bottom time at that depth is strictly limited to minutes.
Because of the air consumption we talked about.
Exactly. Eventually, they have to call it the ascent begins.
And I want to pause here because the quote we have from the government spokesman, Mohamed Hossein Sharif, describing the end of this dive is just chilling.
It really is.
He told the BBC, quote, 8 rescue divers went into the water today. When they surfaced, they realized Mr. Mahdhee didn't come up.
Put yourself in the mindset of those 7 divers.
I can't even imagine.
You break the surface of the water, the wind is howling, the waves are crashing over you, you are physically exhausted, fighting decompression stress, just trying to breathe.
Yeah.
You do a mandatory head count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
A brother in arms is missing. He's still down there in the dark.
And the immediate response from that team is a staggering testament to their bravery.
What did they do?
The reports state that the other divers immediately plunged back into the treacherous water.
Without hesitation.
They didn't wait, they didn't hesitate, they went right back down into the lethally pressurized danger zone they had just barely escaped.
And they found him. But the situation was catastrophic. They found Staff Sergeant Mahdhee had blacked out underwater.
Let's analyze what a blackout at that depth actually means, because it is an immediate medical emergency of the highest order.
Right.
At 60 meters, if a diver loses consciousness, they lose their grip on their regulator, which is their breathing mouthpiece.
Oh, no.
If water enters the lungs at that depth, drowning is imminent.
But they can't just pull him up, right?
Exactly. Alternatively, if a rescue diver attempts to rocket an unconscious diver to the surface too quickly to save them from drowning, the rapid change in pressure will cause catastrophic barotrauma.
Because the air expands.
Yes. The compressed air in the unconscious diver's lungs will expand violently, tearing the lung tissue, and the nitrogen in their blood will bubble massively, causing severe decompression sickness.
It is a lose-lose physiological nightmare. The clock isn't just ticking, it is functionally run out.
His team managed to bring him to the surface and rushed him to the local hospital.
But it was too late.
He was in critical condition, but the trauma of the depth and the blackout was just too severe. Despite the medical intervention, his health rapidly deteriorated, and Staff Sergeant Mahdhee succumbed to his injuries.
He died trying to recover the bodies of people he had never met, from a country thousands of miles away.
And the reverberations of his sacrifice were immediately felt across the globe.
Yeah, we have a very poignant statement from the Italian Foreign Minister, Antonio Tajani. He sent his condolences directly to the Maldives.
What did he say?
He said, "These days of grief for Italy are compounded by the news that one of your brave soldiers died while attempting to dive to reach the bodies of our fellow Italians."
Oh.
He went on to add, "This tragedy unites Italy and the Maldives in grief and respect for the victims."
It is a profound acknowledgement of the shared human cost of this disaster.
Absolutely.
You have a European nation mourning the loss of a brilliant ecology professor, her daughter, and their academic colleagues. And you have an island nation mourning a soldier who gave his life trying to offer those Italian families some small semblance of closure.
So what does this all mean? When we look at this entire sequence of cascading events, the initial violation of the 30-meter limit, the crushing physics of the 60-meter cave, the violent surface weather, and ultimately the tragic death of Staff Sergeant Mahdhee, how do we process the weight of this mission?
This raises an important question about the unseen social contract of search and rescue operations.
What do you mean by that?
There is an almost sacred duty that rescue workers across the globe accept. They willingly step into environments that are inherently mathematically lethal to human beings.
Like a 60-meter deep cave.
Exactly. A weather-battered underwater cave is a place where human physiology simply fails. Yet when someone is lost in the dark, we ask our bravest people to put on a tank of air and go find them.
And they go.
They do. Staff Sergeant Mahdhee embodied that duty to the absolute very end.
It forces you to step back and look at the terrifying irony of the whole picture. What started as a Thursday morning excursion from a luxury yacht, a routine trip for 20 of the passengers, turned into the tiny nation's worst diving disaster.
It really is heartbreaking.
It claimed the lives of 5 Italian professionals, including a mother and daughter who dedicated their lives to studying the ocean, and the heroic Maldivian soldier who went after them.
And for you listening, I think the most crucial takeaway is to deeply consider those invisible boundaries of the natural world we discussed.
The limits we aren't supposed to cross.
Yes.
Oh.
We have established safety limits, like the 30-meter recreational dive line, for a reason based entirely on the physics of human survival.
Right.
When we choose to push past those established limits, whether it's out of intense scientific curiosity, a thrill-seeking impulse, or just pure overconfidence, we don't just risk our own lives.
No.
We actively risk the lives of the people who will inevitably, bravely, come looking for us when the environment turns hostile.
That is a heavy, unavoidable truth. Nature does not distinguish between a brilliant marine biology professor studying its wonders and a highly trained military soldier trying to navigate its dangers.
The crushing pressure of the ocean treats them exactly the same.
It poses a question that I want to leave you with today. At what point does our very human drive to explore, to push past the boundaries of what we know, cross the line into an environment where human survival is simply no longer compatible?
It's something to think about.
When you look out at that serene turquoise postcard of the water, remember the unforgiving math of the depths and what lies waiting in the dark when we push too far.